10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
For the next 2 hours, we will bring you the latest pro wrestling news, in-depth analysis of all your favorite promotions from across the globe, and much, much more. We will also bring you exclusive interviews with the greatest professional wrestling personalities on the local, national, and international levels. If you want to follow the Wrestle Talk Podcast, check us out online at www.wrestletalkpodcast.com. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram. And now, it's time for the reigning, defending, undisputed leader in pro wrestling podcast, the Wrestle Talk Podcast.
Alrighty, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Ta-da! Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 502 of the Wrestle Talk Podcast. Who needs these glasses anyway? Folks, I'm the maestro, Jeremy Carp. Thank you all so much for tuning in this evening. It is a special election night episode of the Wrestle Talk Podcast, the premier professional wrestling podcast out there. Now, before we get started, I want to give a shout out to all the amazing sponsors that we have that are such a big part of what we do.
Consideration paid for by the following.
That is absolutely right. We want to thank all of our amazing sponsors, those being Retro Zone, Painter's Dream Productions, of course, the St. Louis Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, Interstate 70 Sports Media. A special thank you to everybody who does their part there. Little Popeye Designs. I'm going to show you all a little something about Little Popeye Designs. They make these beautiful Wrestle Talk Podcast tumblers. You folks, you can get one for just $20. Now, come on. How can you beat something as beautiful as that? I don't think I can beat it. And of course, the world's premier fantasy wrestling group, I should say, the FWWC, of course. So, once again, and if you are tuning in this evening, wherever you may be tuning in at or from, be sure to use the hashtags WTP and hashtag Let's Talk Wrestling to engage with all of us. Any questions you have, any comments, there's so much to be talking about this evening, folks. We are so thankful that you chose to spend what is surely to be a wild election night with us. Hope you went out and voted, by the way. With all that said, folks, before we do anything, it is a good time for us to now place our hands over our hearts. And if you don't have a heart, well, then you can't place your hand anywhere. Remove your hats. And as we pay homage to the greatest country in the world, our dear friend, Mr. Arsene, I hate to say it, but hit that music. Yeah, why we do that every week, I don't know. Look, if copyright leads us to only being able to use Roseanne's national anthem, I think we've really hit shit creek without a paddle. But nevertheless, brings a tear to your eye and some blood in your ears every single week that it's played. Okay, folks, now, as I said before we started the national anthem, I asked for Mr. Arsene, and that is the man behind the boards this fine evening. You all know him as an FWWC legend in the making, and I believe he is still a title holder with the FWWC, but that is more up his alley. Up until then, it's time to bring on my friend who's going to help me through a lot of the show this evening, that being the one and only Mr. Gabriel Arsene. Yep.
Myself, what up, Wrestle Talk Podcast family? Gabriel Arsene in the house. Jeremy, how you doing, man?
I am doing okay, my friend. How are you doing?
You know, I'll be honest, I'm keeping my head down as far as the elections go. Like, I mean, I think I'm just kind of waiting for it to pass over because it seems like anything anybody's ever been talking about. Like, I've honestly just been focusing more on the wrestling in the world today right now because, I know I'm going to hear about whatever happens tomorrow. But a lot has been going on in the world of professional wrestling. Lots been going on in the FWWC, actually. I just got to mention yours truly, the Warriors Heart Champion. Just want to take the opportunity to shout out our fantastic Wrestle Talk podcast. Sorry, my mic keeps acting up. But
that is A-okay. Look, we got want to make sure he is ready in the background, folks. Give me 1 second.
David E. Owen, good to see you on the show, man.
I think we're ready now, folks, actually. Gabe, I'm going to send you backstage because...
Oh, I just got here. Nah.
I know. I got love for you, but let me tell you something. My true co-host this evening, he's a surprise for everybody. And most importantly, not only is he a dear friend of mine, he is a Hall of Famer. And he's been the business. Without him, there would not be me. So I want to take this moment to introduce the true co-host this week on the Wrestle Talk Podcast, the legend himself, Mr. Luke Roberts.
Jeremy, this is going to work a lot better tonight if I can keep my technology rolling. Good evening, Wrestle Talk Podcast. Tonight's a very busy night here. Jeremy, I would say that the Luke Roberts offices would even be more busy because usually we have NXT tonight. But tomorrow night we're going to have NXT. We're going to have AEW. Tonight is going to be a great episode. We've got Justin Thomas Rodgers going to be on the program here in a little bit. We got the Snippets of Truth. We got the FWWC. We got all sorts of great stuff. And again, as you can see in the background, the maestro keeping up on the wonderful world of politics here. I know a lot of the country is looking at that. But you know something? Tonight's not going to be politics. Tonight's about the world of pro wrestling. And I know for a fact, listening to our scene earlier on, man, over the course of the last 2 weeks, the wrestling world has pretty much gone upside down and sideways. And shout out to Aaron joining us here this evening, longtime referee here in the St. Louis area. Shout out one of the best referees in all of St. Louis, Aaron Lawrence, joining us here on the program this evening. Jackson joining us as well. Now, Jeremy, I know for a fact we're going to be talking about high spots here in a minute. Actually, you know what? No. I'm going to hold off here for just a second because I know that we don't have a high spots graphic for it, but I do have something that I want to get right from the top. So let's go ahead, if you'd be so kind, let's go ahead and hit that high spots intro so we can get things rocking and rolling here with the high spots segment right here tonight on the Wrestle Talk Podcast, episode 502.
Mic check, mic check. Yeah! All right. Wrestle Talk Podcast. DJ Money. Yeah. Let's go.
Welcome to High Spots, where we pop news like lamb chops. We dog shop, coming through the screens of a laptop. And non-stop like a running speeches of blacktop. We hit hard like chair shots and backdrops. Like a clock flash, look like a belly flop. Now that's hard. We up to speed while they stay slow. Wrestle Talk Podcast, now they know. We about to start the show.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, the high spot segments here. We're going to keep hearing more from DJ Money. All right. Again, shout out to DJ Money, our great friend down there in the great state of Georgia, the CEO of Bryant Hill, great personal care products. Make it a point, BryantHill.com. Make sure you check them out here. I think we have we're going to make sure during the course of the show this evening, make sure to share that information. You got a lot of great products. And again, also, he is the VP of operations for the United States Division of Fighting for Autism. Again, now, Carp, I'm a level with you. There's one we don't have a graphic for, and I know that our scene being behind the boards, he's not going to have anything. It's going to put him totally in panic mode, but that's okay. I want to talk real quick about the idea. As we well know, a couple weeks ago, we found out that Ricochet is all elite. We now know he's a part of AEW, but I think a lot of people weren't talking. This is going to sound strange. They weren't talking about the reappearance of Kenny Omega in New Japan Pro Wrestling. Many people were talking about Ricochet coming in and making it a point to make a statement. We do have Kenny Omega and his return, hoping to be back as a part of the events at the top of the year. And also, and our scene, actually, if you can pop back in here for just a second here, I know you are pretty much our resident New Japan expert. I got to ask you, with all the things going on recently in New Japan, which one hits home with you the most? The return of Kenny Omega, hoping to be back by Wrestle Kingdom and Wrestle Dream. Ricochet making his appearance to say what he had to say, or another one that was brought up here before we even get into the official high spots of the evening, the recent statement as relates to Phantasmo and his diagnosis of cancer. All three of those major things. I got to ask you, what are your thoughts in the world of New Japan over the last week or so?
I'll be honest, it's a lot. I mean, and I know that's kind of a blanket term when you say it out loud there, but I've only recently just been catching up. I believe I just watched, I might have been Powerful. I have to double check, but fantastic wrestling all across the board. Talent is doing amazing. Best of the Super Juniors just ended recently. My boys, the Young Punks, we got Kosei Fujita and Robbie Eagles winning the whole shebang. Spoilers. But yes, I do want to bring attention to that because I am a huge fan of this man. And, I think it would be, we'd be remiss if we didn't mention this opportunity because we want to, take our opportunity to wish, best wishes for El Phantasmo in his recovery. For those who are unaware, he was recently diagnosed with a cancer diagnosis. So, thankfully they caught it very early. The man says he's in high spirits, and we hope to keep him, that he's, happy. We're holding him in our hearts, and we hope to, he has a speedy recovery and, can come back to New Japan. But, as far as Ricochet and Kenny Omega, if I'm being honest, and I have to really try and take this back here because you guys know I am the resident New Japan fan here. But the biggest moment for me, as far as the recent pay-per-view for New Japan, was probably the most unthinkable thing I could have imagined. And that is that the former IWGP World Heavyweight Champion, Sonata, has actually become a turncoat and joined the Bullet Club War Dogs. And I was not prepared for this. As the surrogate leader of Just Five Guys, to see him do a complete 180, to betray Taichi for his global championship match, I was not prepared for that. But if you had to ask me out of the two, which one I would prefer, got to be Ricochet. I don't want to take up too much of our time here, but Kenny Omega seemed a little expected because For the uninitiated, the Young Bucks already announced their return to New Japan. So I kind of figured Kenny was going to come after them, if anything. But Ricochet was definitely unexpected. He has wrestled there before, but to take his shot against Zack Sabre Jr. for the World Heavyweight Championship is definitely something to look forward to in the next couple of months. But, thanks for I like to have my spot to talk about my week.
Well, I'm going to tell you right now, Arsene, again, to me, very well wishes to El Fantasmo. Again, great professional wrestler. I really enjoy his in-ring ability. And to hear anybody with a diagnosis of cancer, I mean, again, it's definitely impactful. I have a very good friend of mine. I'm not going to make huge mention of it on the air, but a longtime confidant of mine, a man I've known for, I'd say, better part of 30 years, is battling cancer right now. And I know that it's not an easy thing to do, and wish him a speedy recovery. To me, I have to agree with you. I think Ricochet being making his appearance, and we're going to talk a little more about that as we go into high spots and things along the line. But when it comes down to it, I think that Ricochet is finally getting a chance to make the statement that we all know he could make. I think WWE did definitely drop the ball a lot on him. And I think right now giving him the opportunity to be a part of the New Japan roster. I got to tell you, when it comes down to it, I'm very, very eagerly anticipating what happens with Ricochet as it relates to New Japan. Maestro, I know you're not a huge follower of New Japan, but I got to ask you, 3 major names in the world of professional wrestling over the course of the past few days. Got to get your thoughts.
I mean, quite frankly, it is a great boost for New Japan Pro Wrestling. The whole thing with Ricochet, they definitely, look, it goes without saying, WWE dropped the ball in a lot of ways about it. And quite frankly, I mean, look, it's a good thing because I think it opens up the opportunity for people to watch more international professional wrestling, such as myself. That way, it opens up new horizons. Oh, Kenny Omega, Young Bucks, Zack Sabre Jr., Ricochet. You watch these guys in the States, or maybe say in Canada or in Mexico, but now you can watch them literally overseas. And because of the contrasting styles of Americanized wrestling in the Western world and what the style of wrestling is more familiar with out in Japan, it opens up the horizons and leads to a lot more potentially really high-quality matches.
Very true indeed. And like I said, we got a lot of great wrestling news to talk about here. Again, as a reminder, hashtag WTP, hashtag Let's Talk Wrestling. And I'm going to tell you right now, make it an opportunity to make it a point. Little Popeye designs those great Wrestle Talk Podcast tumblers. You need to make sure you get them. They are in limited supply, so you need to make sure you pick yours up. I know for a fact Hardcore Hoss was talking about that in episode 501. If you haven't gotten your Wrestle Talk Podcast tumbler, make it a point. Check out Little Popeye Designs. Great work. Each and every time you can spend a few more dollars on and also get it customized as well. Again, keeps your hot drinks hot, your cold drinks cold. And one thing that's definitely not cold, and that's the Wrestle Talk Podcast and the high spots here tonight. So let's go ahead here real quick and get our first high spots question up here tonight. So Arsene, if you'd be so kind, I'm going to go ahead and let you get back to what you do oh so well. And we're going to go ahead here and see if we can get the first high spots question up here this evening. All right, the randomizer, let's see here. Again, bear with us tonight, ladies and gentlemen. The randomizer's rolling. All right, well, let's see what our first high spots question is going to be here this evening. Should the Motor City Machine Guns have won the tag team championship so early in their WWE tenure? Maestro, as we see right here, the graphics up on the screen, I got to tell you right now, I'm going to let you go with this because I actually, again, maybe you can call me an old guy here, but I got a little bit of a story to tell here, and I have some thoughts about this, but I got to ask you right off the top of the bat. Motor City Machine Guns, handful of matches in WWE, and now they hold championship gold. What are your thoughts?
I think it's a good move. I mean, it's a big. Motor City Machine Guns, obviously a big name in the world of professional wrestling. So to have them already come to the scene, get the titles. I know a lot of people feel like that it means that they didn't earn it, but I also feel like they're a credible threat or a credible tag team championship holder. Obviously you could say, let's take a look at some of the tag teams. Okay, let's be honest. You have DIY. You have the Good Brothers who are still contracted. You have Los Garza. I mean, as far as SmackDown goes, you got Tamatonga and Tongaloa. You got the Street Profits. And, of course, Motor City Machine Guns beat Tamatonga and Tongaloa for the titles, thanks to the ongoing Bloodline feud that has been excellent. I think it's a perfect opportunity to bring in outside guys that you didn't even think would ever be in WWE, have them win the titles, and now help elevate some of these other younger tag teams in the business.
Well, first of all, Jeremy, just to give you an idea here, and I know we've been keeping an eye on it, when you're talking about great tag teams, I would be remiss if I didn't mention them because they have been blowing up the chat all night long already at 7:25. The Junkies for Fame have joined us here on the program. And as a matter of fact, hopefully I can go ahead and we're going to take care of what's here. I'm going to go ahead real quick here. I want to throw up some support.
Yeah, you got that
for our good
right.
friends, one half of the CHWA Tag Team Champions, not to mention the best tag team in the St. Louis area is here. And you know what, as we sit here right now, and of course, we're going to take care of what's here. We've got them here as well, as we're going to pull it up right here. And we have Dallas Stevens also joining us here tonight. So, I mean, again, we would have JSO, but JSO definitely wants to make it a point that with him holding that championship belt down at the MMWA, he definitely wants to have the pomp and circumstance, if you will. But I digress. Yeah. I want to go back here, and I want to tell a story real quick.
Okay.
And again, don't call me an old man, Jeremy, because I want to share this. Years and years ago, I had an opportunity for the first time back with a promotion that many people may not know by this name. It was a promotion by the name of the Lethal Wrestling Alliance. And I had the honor and privilege when Nightmare Nick Tyson. And again, if anybody has an opportunity to check out Nightmare Nick Tyson online, make it a point. Check him out on Facebook. Check him out on, not on Facebook, but on YouTube. Check him out. A great technical wrestler, a member of the Submission Squad, phenomenal wrestler, and had an opportunity to be in the ring as the third man between him and Alex Shelley. And I will say this right now. I've been in the ring with a lot of wrestlers over the course of 35 years. I'm going to tell you right now, hands down, that was probably one of my best matches ever as an official. Alex Shelley was phenomenal. Nick Tyson brought his A game, and it was great. We fast forward about 6 months later, and they had the opportunity, again, same promotion, to bring in both Shelley and Sabin. And those two men, even back then, were like a finely tuned wristwatch. They knew how it was. And I mean, again, it was just like you saw on TV. It was boom, 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 boom. And you knew exactly what was going on. And again, it was nothing short of poetry in motion. I am a huge fan of the Motor City Machine Guns. However, to me right now, I think them being champions right now is more happenstance than anything else. And here's why. And again, I want to give a shout out. Carl Anderson, recovering from an injury. He went on Twitter saying he's hoping to be back by Mania. I believe Garza right now recently had hand surgery. They're hoping he's back. And I think the target right now is 6 to 8 weeks. But again, right now, I think considering the fact that while there are good tag teams, I'm really interested in seeing the Machine Guns and the Bloodline, or GOD as you know them from New Japan. I think it's going to be a great series of matches if they're given the opportunity. But personally, I think it was too soon. But I'm not going to discredit them because they are great wrestlers. I would say that they will be, to me, they will be multi-time tag champions in the E. But I think a lot of people weren't expecting it to be this soon.
I can understand that. I really can. And it is going to be a controversial topic down the line, but what isn't these days, right?
That is true. And I mean, again, that's one of the things that's great about pro wrestling is the idea that there's so much stuff that's happening as we go along. And I mean, again, the Wrestle Talk Podcast always trying to keep up on things right now. As a matter of fact, kind of keeping an eye here, and I apologize, ladies and gentlemen, as Carp was talking about earlier on, a lot of things going on both inside and outside of the world of professional wrestling, trying to keep up to date here and let you know what's going on. But we're done taking care of that. We're going to move right on here to the next question. I do know Big Daddy P will be joining us here momentarily here for the Snippets of Truth. Again, make it a point. Share your comments. Let us know. Hashtag WTP. Hashtag Let's Talk Wrestling. Share us out to your friends and your family. 502 and going strong. And thank you, Susie. Somebody that agrees with me for once. Hopefully, Susie agrees with me when the next High Spots question comes up. So let's go ahead. Let's hit the randomizer. Let's see what it's going to be. And let's get another High Spots question up here. All right, let's see what this next question is going to be. And we got a lot of them here tonight on the Wrestle Talk Podcast. Let's see how this is going to roll out. Ooh. Let's see what the question is. What do you see happening as a result of the friction between Aldis and Pierce? Now, go ahead, Jeremy. I'm going to let you roll with this one because I think you're going to say exactly the same thing I am.
Now, is it what I want to see, or what do I think will happen? Because I'm going to tell you right now, if it's what I want to see happen, I want these two men in the squared circle. That's what I want to see. I would love to see a match in a WWE ring between Nick Aldis and Adam Pearce at Survivor Series. What I think might end up happening is you will end up having hand-picked teams on their behalves. We've seen it done multiple times before in professional wrestling. So yes, that is a possibility, but there's so many different possibilities. It's hard for me to choose. What do you think, Luke?
Well, I'm going to tell you right now. Do I think Survivor Series is going to happen? I don't think so. I think it's too quick. I think that, and again, maybe I'm a dreamer.
But I'm not the only one.
I look at it right now. To me, I wish this would be something that could be settled on the grandest stage of them all at WrestleMania.
Ooh.
And here's why. To me, I'm going to say this. Nick Aldis for years has been one of the best technical wrestlers on the planet. I'd say definitely top 10. I'm going to level with you. And this is going to show a little bit of favoritism. I'm going to say it flat out. As you saw at the Hall of Fame when the Wrestle Talk Podcast was in Waterloo, Iowa, I'm a scrap iron Adam Pearce guy. I was fortunate enough back many, many years ago for a little promotion called the Mississippi Valley Wrestling Alliance. Shout out to my good friend Tom Simon. Shout out to my good friend Steve Murphy. Shout out to a lot of great wrestlers. Viper, Chris Knight, Power Trip, Billy Bob. I could go on. And Punisher, Mr. GQ. I'm just going to stop there because there's a lot of great stuff there. But I've always been a scrap iron Adam Pearce fan. 5-time NWA World Heavyweight Champion. I'm going to tell you right now, they give him the opportunity to just cut loose. I'm just going to say, I don't think there's a lot in the WWE right now that can keep up with them. I think they're that good. And I think you need to deliver it on a major platform. The only other thing I thought of, and Maestro, give me your thoughts on this, is the idea of maybe we get, and again, maybe it's wishful thinking, maybe we get both of them as a surprise entrant in the Rumble to lead to a situation at Mania.
Right. I was going to say, you could possibly have them both as entrants in the Rumble, and it could end up leading to...
Hey, Corey Graves likes my statement, Carp.
I know. The love of my life just walked in the door. It is A-okay. Anyway, I can see Nick Aldis and Adam Pearce being in the Royal Rumble, and it could lead to something that plants the seeds for the 41st WrestleMania. And look, what stakes are bigger than in Las Vegas?
That is true. That is very true, Maestro. And you know something? I mean, again, when it comes down to it, maybe we see more here. One-on-one, they both wrestled, and you add a... Well, and again, I agree with you, Jackson, but you got to look at the idea of where you're talking about. I'm hoping you're saying that it's not just Nick Aldis has held the NWA World Title. If you go back and look at your history, Scrap Iron Adam Pearce, 5-time heavyweight champion. Just a shout out to another one. If you ever get a chance to, and Carp, I know you and I have talked about it. If you ever get a chance, check out 7 Levels of Hate. I think you can find it within reason on the YouTube, but I know that you can go to I gotta remember what the website is. It'll pop into my head when we get our guest at the most unique time here today. But again, make it a point. Great series of matches between Adam Pearce and Colt Cabana. Our good friend Jeff Manning had an opportunity to be the promoter of record for one of those matches. Chris Goff, who's been on the show, was a promoter for one of those matches. We've had Sheldon Goldberg on the show. He's been a promoter of one of those matches. And again, all of the turmoil at the end definitely was out there. I mean, again, Bruce Tharpe had the opportunity to meet the man, never had any problems with him. Had an opportunity here in Cahokia, Illinois to work with him. And when it comes down to it, I very much feel that it's a great event or a great series to watch. But again, I really hope that would be the case. I mean, it's really something that for the wrestling purist, I should say, I definitely would be very happy about that. And I know a lot of wrestling fans around the world would be as well. Speaking of which, right now, and we don't have a graphic, but this is local news, and I know you and I have talked about it as of late. This past weekend, the big announcement here in St. Louis, World League Wrestling, after 25 years, coming home to the NWA, and want to give a shout out to longtime friend Camaro Jackson, the Quadfather, who now is the NWA WLW heavyweight champion. Big shout out to Camaro. He has been lighting the scene on fire. Shout out to Camaro. Brand new WLW. Sorry, NWA WLW heavyweight champion.
We can no longer just say WLW. It is NWA WLW, baby. And let me tell you, Camaro Jackson, one of my first friends in this wrestling industry. You were arguably my first, but Camaro Jackson, one of the first I met, welcomed me with open arms. All these years later, you know, it's funny, you know, we see more of an intense edge on him. And I'll interview him backstage, and he still tells me that he likes me. But you know, he always tells me to just keep an eye out because he's got that fire in him. But I'm telling you right now, he earned every bit of winning this title.
Most definitely, Maestro. Again, shout out to Camaro Jackson, the new NWA WLW heavyweight champion. I mean, again, you look at guys like the drill instructor, like Trevor Rhodes, like Haku, like Rick Steiner, who've held that championship. And I'm going Leland Race, among others. Lots of great individuals have held that WLW championship. And now to add the name Camaro Jackson to the list really is a huge deal. And I mean, again, the man's held gold all over the place. I mean, former multi-time Dynamo Pro, a champion Dynamo Pro. I know he's been on the radar at some events in PWE. There's a lot of places that he's been involved. And if you get a chance, not just in St. Louis, but I know he's been making some trips down in the Southeast, check out Camaro Jackson. You will not be disappointed. Speaking of which, let's go ahead real quick. Let's get moving on here. We're going back from national, international, local, you name it. Our scene, pop up another one with the randomizer, buddy. We're rocking and rolling. All righty, let's see where we're going this time in the high spot. Oh, Ooh, is Bobby Lashley a good fit for AEW?
If only because, if anything, it's only because MVP is there. Look, I'm sorry, Bobby Lashley, give the guy a microphone and he's not entertaining. He's just not. I think he's a hell of an athlete. I think he's a fantastic athlete. I think he's a good wrestler. But he just is a charisma vacuum. Now, you put MVP with him, it's a whole different story because MVP can talk like nobody's business. And, you know, it goes without saying. You've had that long time controversy about the hurt business in WWE, how it fell through, you know, them not wanting it to keep going, them wanting to keep going, who said what, said, he said, all that. Point being, they're back, but this time it's the Hurt Syndicate in AEW. And while I think it can work for the sake of that, that's the only thing I could see Bobby Lashley fitting in with. I'm sorry. I don't think... You know, a lot of people are worried that that AEW is becoming the place ex-WWE stars just go. I feel like that is a prime. If you want to fit that narrative, just put Bobby Lashley's face there. What more does Bobby Lashley have to prove in the wrestling world by going to AEW? He's already done so much in TNA and in WWE, whereas Ricochet, I mean, we knew he got buried in WWE, so him going to AEW opens up a lot more internationally and nationally, like we've discussed. So I personally don't think that Bobby Lashley really... There's not going to be a big significance. Not going to move the needle.
Now, I don't mean to jump into this right now. Okay, I'm sorry to cut you off, Luke, because you know, with Night Owl telling us to take the initiative a bit, I feel like I have to play devil's advocate, and I'm not trying to throw you out for your opinion here, Carp, but I'm just saying right now, everything you're saying that applies to Ricochet applies to Bobby Lashley, because yes, this man may be proven in places like Impact Wrestling, but you cannot deny, you can't sit there and tell me that you cannot deny that him being international with Bobby Lashley wouldn't sell tickets, because like you said, he may be the charisma vacuum when it comes to speaking, but MVP's got the microphone, and this man knows how. He's got a silver tongue, and trust me when I say
right.
I said
it would be good because he is. It would only work if he's with MVP, which is why he fizzled out in WWE when MVP was gone, and of course now the Hurts, like I said, the Hurt Syndicate having MVP there with him. That's the only way Bobby Lashley is going to thrive in any national, international, wherever the hell he goes in AEW. Being a part of that. And you know what? I'm going to just say it. That's not a good thing. If you are relegated to being a part of a stable, and if being part of a stable defines your success in a promotion, that's a big red flag from the start. You know? That's what I'm saying on this one.
I have heard your opinion. I have absorbed it. I disagree. But you know who doesn't disagree? Just to throw this out there, I am not the only one here, but Susie Haas, she definitely sees where I'm coming from with this. And just to throw this, Jackson as well. But we could sit here doing this all night, and I'm the one running the boards right now. So
hold up.
Sorry.
You're going to stay here, Arsene, because now Luke Roberts is going on a tangent, and I'm fired up. Number one, first things first. Hurt syndicate? No. To me, in all my years in pro wrestling, there's only going to be one syndicate, and I go back to the days of GCW, Big Bad Ben, Pete Madden, and Mike Sharona. That's the first one. Jeremy, I don't know where you're going in the idea. It's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. Don't deliberately rip off DDP. Now, let's go on to the third thing here, and everybody's leaving this out. The idea of Bobby Lashley and Bellator. I mean, granted, that doesn't go into the whole pro wrestling avenue, but the idea of where, simply put, when it comes down to it, the man can compete. And I agree with Jeremy in the idea of having a mouthpiece with him is a great thing. But in closing, do I think he's a good fit? Yeah, and I'm going to quote somebody, and this may be a little bit of a dated reference for you guys. Did either of you two gentlemen ever watch the movie Major League, the first one?
Yes.
Remember when very early in the movie, Rick Vaughn was having troubles with his pitching?
Oh, no.
Remember when he was having problems with his pitching?
Yes, I remember when he was having a problem with his pitching.
I'm going to kind of channel my inner Lou Brown here. Bobby Lashley and AEW, why not? Everybody else has had him. We go from there.
Goodness.
Shots fired! Shots fired!
All right. Now, at this point, you know what's there. Let's move on to the next question here. High spot segment, Arsene, he's going to go back and make sure he's running those boards because I am just fired up here tonight. It's episode 502. We're talking wrestling. We're talking election stuff in the background. We got Arsene here, and we're going to keep right on rolling here. Let's pop up another high spots question here tonight as we're going on here. We're going to have Justin Thomas Rodgers in just a few minutes as well. So let's go ahead. Let's throw up another one, ladies and gentlemen. All right, where are we going next with high spots tonight? Let's see how. Ooh. This intrigues me. There's 3 or 4 different ways this question can go. According to reports, TNA's Chris Bay had to have neck surgery. A GoFundMe has been set up. Should that be necessary for a wrestler under contract? Very deep question here. Carp, I'm going to go ahead and take the lead on this one because I look at it from a perspective. There's a lot of people who are watching the Wrestle Talk podcast who are going to say, simply put, that wrestlers are, and thank you, Sonny Money. Bring that up one more time, Arsene. Bring that up one more time. Again, a great shout out. I'd rather be quicker to tune into an MLW show than an AEW show. Make it a point too. Just got a good message as well that Eric Bischoff will be appearing in MLW real soon as well. I'm looking forward to that as well. Going back to the whole Chris Bay thing though, if you're under contract and you get injured, I mean, my view is if wrestling is a bunch of independent contractors, we could always go back to the Jesse Ventura thing about wanting to form a union, and we all know where that went. To me, I look at it from the perspective, if he got injured competing for that brand and he has a contract with that brand, I think that brand should at least be responsible for making sure that things are taken care of. Now, I mean, again, are people nowadays wanting to support each other and with things like GoFundMe's? I get it. But to me, I look at it that if you're on the payroll and, I mean, if anything, I mean, again, I know they're not necessarily they may not necessarily want to pay for a surgery and whatnot, but at least make sure that if you have some kind of a deal, make sure that you're paying what they're supposed to be making so that they can make sure that they're going to take care of things. Now, Carp, as you've heard and read many stories about not just being in the world of pro wrestling, but being the broadcast journalist through many different forms of media that you are. People having neck injuries, those kinds of things don't take days to heal. A lot of times you're talking 9 months, a year, 18 months to heal, if you heal at all. And to me, I honestly think that, I think that if it could be documented that it happened in a TNA ring, I think TNA should be responsible for it. But again, another thing you look at, Chris Bay, very innovative style, competes in a lot of different promotions. It could have just been natural wear and tear. But to me, I think that the idea of wrestlers having to go to a GoFundMe to take care of something as severe as a neck injury, that doesn't fly with me. Maestro, your thoughts?
All right, I'm gonna pull this up. All right, we got. Hang on. I want you to go. If you type in on Google wrestler GoFundMe, you literally just have a list of wrestlers who have GoFundMe accounts set up just because of health issues and ailments attributed to professional wrestling. Names like the late Kevin Sullivan, names like Abdullah the Butcher, Juan Jeremy, Chris Bay, among so many others. And guess what? You are absolutely right on one thing. It is not, I think it's beyond wrong that a GoFundMe account has to be set up. And let's face it, it has to be. Because these wrestlers get screwed over when it comes to health benefits, when it comes to any contractual obligations. The promotions of which they work under are able to get around the fact that they have to be in charge of those recovery funds and liabilities. And this is not like it's just been like this for 5 or 10 years. Luke, you've been in the business 35 years. It's practically been going on for twice that amount. Wrestlers have infamously never been properly covered for injuries. And you're right. We'll take a look at other sports, for example, just for the hell of it. The NFL. Neck injuries are career-ending. Eric LeGrand, who is a WWE Hall of Famer, big college football star who had NFL aspirations, got paralyzed in a football game. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah for the Cleveland Browns just got placed on injured reserve because of a neck injury. Zach Moss of the Cincinnati Bengals just got placed on injured reserve because of a neck injury. The difference, they're going to be having the proper health benefits and coverages lined out in their contracts. You don't see GoFundMe set up for these football players, do you? Guess what? Something happens to Abdullah the Butcher because of wrestling. He has to have a GoFundMe set up. Kevin Sullivan's wear and tear wore him down to the point he needed a GoFundMe set up. Because guess what? Not only don't these wrestlers make the amount of money as football players, but they don't get the same health luxuries as football players. And to me, that's why, to answer the question, should that be necessary for a wrestler? No, it shouldn't be. But it is necessary until something in the industry changes to where wrestlers get the health benefits that they deserve to get for putting their damn bodies on the line every single show they are a part of.
Very true, Maestro. Very true. And to give you an idea here, and I'm actually, while you were talking, no, it wasn't that I wasn't paying attention. I was taking a look here, and I went back into the world of GoFundMe. And it's correct. I want to read this for a minute. If this is the correct one, Chris Bay, a beloved TNA superstar known as the Ultimate Finesser, recently was injured during a pay-per-view event. As his close friend, I set up this official fundraiser page to show our support for him and ease the stress of the financial burden associated with his injury. All contributions raised will be delivered directly to Chris. Your generosity and encouragement mean so much, and together we can allow him the peace of mind to focus solely on healing. Let's show our support for this living legend. Here's one thing that I look at. And again, this was supposedly, going back and looking at it right here, it was created on October 28th. So if my math is correct, and again, let me go back to the handy-dandy computer calendar here just to make sure it's there. So that'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 days. If this is the correct account, they've raised $90,000.
Jesus.
And I don't know per se if this is true or not. And again, it's the world of technology nowadays. But supposedly one of them that's in here, the top donation, and again, I don't know how true or not. They have one listed as one Adam Copeland to the tune of $10,000. And that's one thing I will say, that as a part of the wrestling community, and I'm not going to go on the GoFundMe tangents per se, but you've got a lot of wrestlers who are still making good money. Wrestlers like Adam Copeland, like Chris Jericho. I mean, a lot of people will go on tangents about all sorts of wrestlers, but these guys right here who are still in that, not in the WWE, but still making good money through various other business avenues, are still able to help wrestlers out. Another one, it's a prime example, is the Cauliflower Alley Club. Give a shout out to our good friend B. Brian Blair, the Honorable B. Brian Blair. They also make it a point to help out wrestlers who are down on their luck based on situations. And I'm going to tell you right now, I don't think the GoFundMe is the way to go, but it leads to a whole nother avenue that, I guess the best way to put it is, we're going to kind of have to wait and see, because this may be the trend of the future. But again, it's one of those things we just want to see. And actually, real quick, Arsene, is there anybody in the chat? I know I'd say right now, since we started that question looking here, I think there's like 14 or 15 posts that have been made like in the last 5 minutes. Are there any of them there? If you can, please pop them up here. Is there anything in the last 5-6 minutes talking about this topic? I really want to hear and see what the viewers. All promotions should have some sort of insurance, like workman's comp. Okay, thank you, Susie, for that. If he's seriously hurt, he should sue. I'm going to disagree with Susie on this one. I'm going to disagree with Hardcore Sis. Wrestling's not ballet. Wrestling's a contact sport. Now, I will tell you.
Wait. I'm sorry. I gotta.
Hold on.
Who just said that?
Oh, the suing?
No. What about ballet?
No, that was me.
Oh, God.
Pro wrestling. No, pro wrestling's not ballet. And the idea and I'll tell you right now, you know somebody very well that I do, that if you're in a ring, you're in a match and something happens, that's one thing. But if it's something like a ring rope breaks, or you go through the ring, or something like that, something that would be, I dare say, a mechanical issue, then would a suit be out of the realm? Probably not. I mean, I knew the risks I was taking when I would get in the ring. And if something like that happened, I remember, and again, really bouncing names around all night, a good friend of ours, Lenny Mephisto. I remember one night he was wrestling for, I believe it was the MMWA at the time. Rope snapped. And if he wouldn't have taken what his trainers had told him since day one, he would have landed right on his head. Thankfully, he was able to maneuver himself to absorb the brunt of the punishment, so he didn't land on his head, and he was able to avoid serious injury. And that's one of the things you look at. Lawsuits in this day and age, not necessarily as much, because you know what you're getting yourself into. But, I mean, again, if you want to walk down that avenue, we can go back to the whole concussions and the CTE lawsuit back, 10, 15 years ago?
Yeah.
I mean, that's another avenue to look at, too. I mean, again, it really is a slippery slope when you talk about these kinds of things, because I agree with you on an insurance, but, I mean, again, it's one of those, you know what you're getting into when you step inside the ring.
But here's the thing. Okay, how do I word this? Even if you know what you're getting into, just because, does that make it right?
No, I can see where you're going. Right,
That's kind of the angle I'm going with, because the question is, should it be necessary? And in that regard, it's no. From a moral standpoint. Now, unfortunately, from a logistical standpoint, that's kind of where we're at right now, just because, well, shit. Like you said, this is kind of where we're at in wrestling. And you see Sonny's comment about till wrestlers go union, which will never happen. How many times have wrestlers tried being unionized in the past? Let's really think about it. You know?
Well, Maestro, and I mean, again, shout out to all those that have been giving their comments. And again, make it a point, share us. Hashtag Wrestle Talk Wrestling, hashtag WTP, hashtag Wrestle Talk Podcast. Make it a point to share us out to all your friends. We've got a lot of great topics we'll be talking about tonight. Justin Thomas Rodgers is going to be joining here in just about 10, 12 minutes or so. Real quick here in our scene, we're going to take just a second here. We're going to have time before our featured guest shows up here this evening. I want to go ahead real quick. If you'd be so kind, let's go ahead here and acknowledge our sponsors. That way we can make sure that we get things taken care of and ready to rock and roll for our guests. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Again, thank you to the late Lord Alfred Hayes for that great introduction. Once again, each and every week, the Wrestle Talk Podcast would not be possible without our great sponsors. And that is Retro Zone, Painter's Dream Production, the Independent St. Louis Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, which in June, make it a point, check them out on social media. Tickets are going to be available soon. You can see myself and countless other guests of the program being inducted into the Hall of Fame. Interstate 70 Sports Media, Little Popeye Designs, some of those great Wrestle Talk podcast tumblers, and the FWWC, the world's premier fantasy wrestling group. And you know something, Maestro?
What?
I want to take just a minute here. And our scene, I know you've got it back in the back. Let's go ahead, as we talked about our great sponsors here, let's go ahead for those that may be new to the program. I know you mentioned at the top of the show about the Independent St. Louis Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. Can we go ahead and take just a moment here and acknowledge our sponsor with they have a video to promote the Hall of Fame induction for 2025 and the class of 2025. So our scene, if you can find that video, can you please pop it up so we can kind of give our viewers a little bit of a taste of what the Independent St. Louis Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame is all about? All right. If you have an opportunity, make it a point to check them out on Sunday, June 22nd. Wrestle Talk Podcast will be in full force. A lot of great wrestlers that are going to be joining the Hall of Fame. And just to give you an idea, again, as you saw in there was not a mirage. You're going to have Mischief going into the Hall of Fame. You're going to have yours truly, Luke Roberts, going into the Hall of Fame. You're going to have Handsome Harley Race, the 8-time NWA World Heavyweight Champion, the founder of WLW, the first King of the Ring in the WWF. I mean, you got that. You got wrestlers like Jeremy Lightfoot, who's joined us on the program, the Irish Devil Doug O'Shea, Ed Smith, a longtime mainstay in the world of professional wrestling, Mark Bland, a man that you and I are both very familiar with, Jeremy. Doc Lombardi. I mean, again, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, you've got wrestlers like Chris Knight, you got Steve Sharp, the Atomic Dog, you got Frank Reed. I mean, from top to bottom, I mean, it's going to be a great day. Human Wrecking Ball, Pete Madden. I would be remiss if I didn't mention one of my trainers from all those years ago back in the day in the world of professional wrestling. Again, make it a point. Check them out online, Independent St. Louis Wrestling Hall of Fame. A lot of great things are going to be coming. And, of course, you can check out all of our great Wrestle Talk podcast personalities. I know the Maestro is going to be there. Big Sexy Chris Rodell is going to be there. Nightmare Jones is hoping to be there. Big Hoss is hoping to be there. Sonny Money is going to try to make the journey down. The CEO, the Night Owl. We're trying to get our scene to get out from behind the camera, from the wonderful Sunshine State, as the late Gordon Soley would say. Try to get him to make the journey up here to the St. Louis area, where he can enjoy that wonderful 95-degree weather down in Florida. Come see what St. Louis is like in June, my friend. Come up here, enjoy the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, and as an extra added bonus, enjoy our wonderful St. Louis heat and humidity. So, but with that, make it a point to come join us. Thank you, Homer. To give you an idea, on Sunday, June the 22nd, and again, to give you the full rundown again, Ed Smith, Harley Race, Doug O'Shea, myself, Frank Reed, Jeremy Lightfoot, Doc Lombardi, Peggy Minder, Pete Madden, Mark Bland, Steve Sharp, Chris Knight, Ace Strange, and Mischief. And again, $30 in advance, $35 at the door. You get an opportunity to get a meal. You get an opportunity. There's going to be merchandise available. There's going to be some historical things that are going to be there as well. Make it a point. Again, if you're in the St. Louis area, I mean, you got plenty of time. Tickets are going fast. Make it a point to get things taken care of. With a 6-pack of A&W and 4 packs of Big League Chew. My only question is what flavor of Big League Chew? That's going to be the question for another episode.
Okay, I got to say, I had oh, hell, where did I see it? Hang on, Luke. Give me like 30 seconds. You know what? It was Jack Vaughn. It was the vet Jack Vaughn at PWE at Concordia on Saturday. He had a Big League Chew hoodie on, and it was such a damn beautiful thing. I had to say it.
Dude, I'm so jealous now. Okay, now it's been out here. I'm just going to throw it here. We're going to completely go off tangent. You know how that is with the Wrestle Talk podcast, as it is right now. And folks, if you want to put it in the comments, go ahead. Are we talking regular, grape, strawberry, or other flavor? That's going to be the question here, as we're going to see what's going to be here for the second hour. But you know something, Jeremy? I got a little surprise for you. And when we're going to go ahead, before we bring up... Oh, no. I warn you. And again, you have my word, not only as a colleague, but as a friend.
That's what I'm more afraid of.
It's not Gilbert. And RC... I wasn't going there, I promise. And for Arsene, no, it's not Jeremy Lightweight, as you call him. So you pop it in there. You see, I'm going to go here. Arsene, you can go ahead and go back now because you're there. We're going to go ahead. We got a special guest here. No, it's not our guest who's going to be joining us here in a couple minutes. We got one more High Spots question here this evening. But we'd be remiss if we didn't bring him on. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's our esteemed honor and privilege to bring the man who's been around for 502 episodes. You're right. The one, the only. Nightmare Jones is in the house tonight. Nightmare Jones, how in the world are you doing, my friend in West Virginia? How you doing?
Doing good. How about you?
We are doing awesome here. And I'm going to ask you here as we're getting things done. We're going to ask you. You saw the question here a minute ago. You saw Susie Haas's reply. Regular, grape, strawberry, or other when it comes to Big League Chew. Your thoughts?
There's no other flavor but grape. Grape's the only flavor.
I'm going to tell you right now, I'm personally, if I had to pick up a flavor of Big League Chew, I'm going to be a strawberry guy. I like grape. But I'd be a strawberry guy. Strawberry's a good flavor. I mean, again, I like the grape, but it's just something about if you have more than a few pieces of the grape, it really kind of leaves an aftertaste. So, Carp, which one do you think?
Oh, I said strawberry.
All right, we're all good to go, and we're now 2-2. Make it a point, take care of things. We weren't going to go there, but Mayor Quimby got a vote from Joe Lance. We're not going to go there. Let's go ahead and throw one more High Spots question up here before we move on to our guest here. So let's go ahead, Arsene. If you'd be so kind, go ahead and hit the last of our High Spots questions for the evening. All right, guys, I got to tell you, this last question here already has me intrigued.
ECW.
Do Bubba Ray Dudley and RVD increase your interest in watching NXT from the famed ECW arena, also known as the 2300 arena? I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not starting this one off. I'm going to make the tag here real quick. Nightmare Jones, if we can ever see your wonderful face, because this graphic's been up here way too long, I got to ask you, you enjoy pro wrestling. You're just like every other member of the Wrestle Talk Podcast family. I got to ask you, what are your thoughts tomorrow night, NXT invading the hallowed grounds of the ECW arena?
I think that it's a great idea. I absolutely think that the ECW arena is a very special arena for people, and it brings back a lot of memories. And I think that having RVD and Bubba Ray Dudley makes sense for them to be on the show. You can't have a show at the ECW arena without having ECW wrestlers. So I think it definitely brings the watchability of NXT up more than what it already is.
Okay, very valid point, Nightmare. And I mean, again, I'm going to tell you right now, they've mentioned a few more as we go along. And I'm going to tell you right now, it's definitely something that's going to intrigue me when it comes to tomorrow night. Because, and again, Sunny Money brought it up, a few other viewers have brought it up, is where are you going to go? Are you going to go to AEW? Are you going to go to NXT at the ECW arena? Or are you not going to watch wrestling at all? I mean, there's a lot of things that you could be looking at here when it comes to it. Personally, I'm looking forward to it. And here's why. And it's one simple thing. Rob Van Dam. And the reason why is, even though the last time he was on TV in AEW, he still looked like he could go. And I'm going to tell you right now, if he's going to actually get an in-ring competition as a part of this event, that made me tune in, hands down. Because he's gone from Mr. Monday night to Mr. Friday night to now he's going to be Mr. Wednesday night. And we're going to go there. And as we see here, the Night Owl giving us a shout out, again, checking us out here. And again, it's great to know that our executive producer is making sure that he's keeping an eye on things here. I know we're going to have some big things popping up here real soon. And again, he's been working real, real hard, making the Wrestle Talk podcast go to another level. Carp, your thoughts?
It's interesting because you're gonna have to hear me out on this. It doesn't really interest me more. Hang on, because I'm already as hyped up as it is. Like, that's the thing. I think it's gonna be great seeing them there. It's always great seeing ECW originals at the ECW arena. But I'm not gonna be one of the fans like, oh, that's the only reason I'm tuning in to watch it. Like, I think it's a fantastic thing that they're going to be there, and that NXT as a whole is going to be there. People don't realize, look, I'm just going to say it right now. You got Madison Square Garden. You got the Chase Park Plaza for St. Louis. And in Philly, you got the ECW arena. I mean, let's just face it. There is those certain places in specific cities that are the staple homes for professional wrestling. And the ECW arena is that place. And it's funny because it's just a little bingo hall under the overpass. My friend and I went past it a few years ago when they were living out there. And look, it doesn't look like much, but that's what makes it all the more awesome, because just think of the aura, the memories, and everything that happened in that building.
Well, you know something, Maestro? I'm going to tell you, and again, I'm going to share this story, and I'm going to kind of pull the curtain back a little bit here. Years and years ago, as you know, I've been around pro wrestling for a long time, but I got a lot of other business interests. And I had an opportunity to be at a conference about 20 years ago in Philadelphia. And I told myself that I was going to go by. If you're in Philly, I mean, it's like going up the stairs to the Rocky statue. I mean, that's kind of the way it is. You got to go. You got to get a cheesesteak, got to see the Liberty Bell. That was on my list of things to do. Only problem is I went to go see it, thanks to my wonderful taxi, at 3 a.m. in the morning, knowing full well that I had to be on a plane 2.5 hours later. And I asked him, hey, I'm gonna pay you. I'll give you a $20 tip if you let me get out the car for 30 seconds and take a picture of the front door. I'll ask. And his exact words, much like Bobby the Brain Heenan would say countless times, if you get out of this car and take a picture, the only person you're gonna be talking to is yourself. Because he said, I'm not stopping anywhere near the ECW arena at 3 a.m. in the morning. So, but again, when you talk about, I mean, again, the ECW arena, you talk about MSG, you talk about Cobo Hall, you talk about the Chase, Keel Auditorium, Sportatorium, Tampa Armory, the Cow Palace, a lot of great old school venues. And again, I'm not saying ECW is old school, but I mean, again, it's one of those venues. Definitely, when you go and you're there, you're almost, if you're a true wrestling fan, you're almost inclined to stop. I mean, it's not even a choice. So, but speaking of which, it is now time for us to bring on our featured guest of the evening. Now, for those that may or may not know tonight's guest, this man has been very accomplished, but not necessarily from a in-ring perspective. He's more of a outside the ring personality, but I do have to give him a shout out because the man right now, he is undefeated from our records inside the squared circle. So, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to welcome here to the Wrestle Talk Podcast as a part of episode 502, the one, the only, Justin Thomas Rodgers.
Hey, Larry, Jimmy, thanks a lot, guys. I really appreciate you welcoming me to the podcast, episode 502. We're looking to make this the biggest episode of Wrestle Talk ever with JTR, the one and only. And that's right. You got it correct. I am 2-0 inside the squared circle.
And JTR, very happy to have you here on the program. You know, I'm a level with you. You got me here from the St. Louis area, and one of the things I've heard from countless people is the idea of where when you go and you talk about pro wrestling in West Virginia, the name JTR is one of those names that you hear a lot, not necessarily for in-ring competition, but because of your knowledge outside the ring. And again, it's our honor and privilege to have you here. Before we get too far along, I know you're pretty familiar with the man, Nightmare Jones. So Nightmare Jones, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to tag out here for just a minute. I'm going to take things to you to get this interview started with JTR right here tonight on episode 502. So Nightmare, take it away.
Well, JTR, thank you for coming on to the show. I must say. Now, my first question is who do you think is the biggest group in WDWA. Why is it Money and Power?
There's no question, Joe. No question, Joe. Hands down, Money and Power is the number one group in WDWA. There's a few little wannabes out there right now called Supremacy running around, okay? They put on a suit. The next week, they got a hooded sweatshirt on. They pull up in Mazdas, and they talk about supremacy, that they're all the way up here at the top of the pyramid. Well, here's the difference between Money and Power and supremacy. Let me tell you, Joe. The difference is this is a lifestyle that JTR and Money and Power live. This isn't some pretend thing that we do on the weekends, okay? This is for real. This is the life that I live. Look around this office at the countless money in memorabilia. Where's Supremacy's nice memorabilia? Where's their beautiful oak cabinets? They're pulling up in Mazdas, being pretenders, Joe.
I definitely hear you. Now, at one point, you were a respected referee in WDWA until that fateful day that you decided to turn your back on WDWA. And let me tell you, I was there that day, and you literally got chased out of the building by the fans.
You're right. You're right. And what I did was for a very good reason that night. You see, a lot of people don't understand what led up to that. And you see, what you people have learned is that I don't need the money from this. I did it because I loved it. And I did it to make a difference in WDWA and tried to officiate matches the absolute best that I could to make professional wrestling great. And what happened is at the time, you had a guy named the Latin Tornado who owned it, okay? At this point, this guy would send me out to sit at the desk taking tickets. A talented official like myself didn't belong doing that. I belonged in the main event because the referees at the time, out of all, I was the absolute best. I think you can agree with that. I mean, my skills were just absolutely through the roof as a referee, and this guy's got me out here taking tickets at the door. So you know what? I got fed up with it. At the time, Voltage, which is a rival promotion in our area, was having a little bit of an issue with WDWA. I happened to referee for them as well. So Mike Nolan, the owner, came to me. He offered me a little bit of money. I mean, I really didn't need it, but, you know, I'll take as much as I can get. So I took it and did what we had to do, and it ended up gaining Mike the company there for a little bit.
It did. It did. It definitely, absolutely did. It definitely changed a lot of things in WDWA. 1,000%. I've got one more question before I throw it to Jeremy. And this question happens to do with the man formerly known as Unk. He turned on his tag team partner of many, many years to join Money and Power. What did you have to do to get him to do that?
Listen, Joe, you're right. Unk used to be his name. The man's name is now Mr. Callahan. I've taken him out. I've gotten him a makeover, which I offered to do for a young lady last week, and she declined. She should have looked at what I've done with this gentleman and taken me up on the offer. But nonetheless, what you also have to remember, Joe, is that wasn't just his tag team partner. That was his brother-in-law, okay? This was the man's family. And what I did is gave him an offer that he couldn't refuse. Mm-hmm. He absolutely couldn't refuse it because there are two things that rule the world, Joe. One is money and the other is power.
That is true. That is definitely true. And, you know, the funny thing is that you and I are very, very, very much alike in some ways. Like, things have happened to you in WDWA that you didn't appreciate. Things have happened to me in WDWA that I didn't appreciate, like getting hit with a chair, tasered, double choke slam, you know, and it definitely changes things for you.
It absolutely does. And some people take a little longer to get tired of things than others. But listen, Joe, I'm always here. I'm always open to have a conversation. Listen, I'm sure that there's something JTR can do for you, and I'm sure there's something you can do for me.
You never know. All right, so Jeremy, I know that you're still with us, and Luke. So, what questions do you have for JTR? Maybe there's not with us anymore. Maybe it's just you and me.
I think so. I think Jimmy's left us. Is that his name, Jimmy?
Jeremy,
Oh, okay.
and Luke.
Johnny and Larry. Okay, I got it.
So you don't just do stuff with WDWA. You also a accomplished referee in Maryland Championship Wrestling, ACW. You know, you booked quite a few big name matches. Like, what are some of the big matches that you've refereed?
I have had the pleasure of refereeing a few other matches. A few that come to mind would probably be Kalisto and Khan from AEW. Matt Riddle versus Rich Swann is another one.
Wow.
That was probably one of the bigger matches. Really fun match. Several others. I mean, I've had Jack Swagger, Rhett Titus at one point. So, I mean, I've gotten the opportunity refereeing as well to go around and work with several promotions, which I'm all grateful for all of them giving me an opportunity and gotten to do some pretty cool matches.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, a lot of people don't know this, but you are also a big fan of Greco-Roman style wrestling.
Yeah, I am an amateur fan of amateur wrestling. Absolutely. I follow like the college wrestling scene pretty closely, the Iowa Hawkeyes. I did that most of my life and was an amateur wrestler coming up. So I'm pretty into that. Yep. Okay,
absolutely. So what else does Money and Power have in store in WDWA?
It's funny you should ask, Joe. Money and Power has a lot in store for the remainder of this year and 2025 coming up. There's going to be some big things happening for Money and Power. I can promise you that. Money and Power is making its way up the card in WDWA in all assets. You know, if you didn't come to the last show, we were in 3 out of the 7 or 8 matches, and I intend to put a competitor in every single division in WDWA, take them all over, and put gold around all of their waists.
Hey, that sounds like a good plan to me. All right, Luke, you are back with us. So what questions do you have for JTR?
Well, first of all, JTR, I mean, again, it's going to be a completely different interview now that I'm here. I mean, again, Nightmare Jones was a good lead interview, but now I'm going to ask you the hard-hitting questions. Now, we talk about Money and Power and how successful they've been as of late in WDWA. My question to you is this. You want to have somebody, and again, the goal of every great manager is to have somebody compete in every matchup. My question is, what makes somebody worthy of being in Money and Power? I mean, again, you are an accomplished manager. You always look for the best of the best. What stands out to you for somebody that may be Money and Power potential?
Well, let me tell you, ruthlessness. You have to be willing to be absolutely ruthless when the time is there. You got to be willing to do whatever is needed to get that W. I don't care what it is. We're going to get it. And an individual who's ruthless, but they also have to have a fine sense of style, be an accomplished wrestler, and look pretty good, because we don't have any ugly people in Money and Power. I mean, they're all good looking.
And I got to say right now, JTR, that's definitely a very good credo here. Now, you have been in countless promotions, and I got to ask you right now, I don't want you to tip your hand, because all great managers keep the great ideas, the high dollar investments close to the chest. But I got to ask you right now, you've traveled to a lot of promotions throughout your part of the country. Right now, if you would be so kind, who would be the dream member, somebody that you would consider to be the franchise or the cornerstone of your vision for Money and Power to take over professional wrestling? It could be any promotion you've got. Who would be your cornerstone? Who would be that number 1 draft pick that you would have to take Money and Power to the next level?
Luke, that's a pretty tough question. But off the top of my head, one guy comes to mind just real quick. I'd have to say Spencer Slade. From what I've seen out of him, I think he would be an absolute fit in Money and Power, and he would be right there to compete at the heavyweight division for the heavyweight title for Money and Power.
Again, I've had the opportunity to do a little bit of research, and again, I think that would be a great addition if you were able to acquire his service. Now, here's a question for you, and I want to spin here, because being a former longtime referee, and I know for a fact that several people here on the program have kind of gotten agitated with me as of late because of some issues here in St. Louis, but I digress. I was here in Nightmare Jones a little bit ago, and as we said at the top of the interview, you are undefeated inside the squared circle. I got to ask you, being a former wrestler, being a former longtime referee, what motivates someone with your knowledge, your ability, your finances, with all the things you bring to the table? Why would you be risking it all to step inside the squared circle? Because you seem like a very intelligent man, but stepping into the squared circle, what motivates you to step inside the ropes, not as an accomplished manager, but as a competitor?
Well, it's interesting that you asked that, because I had an incident last Saturday night at WDWA where, in fact, a young lady who calls herself the alpha female, Amara Void, she found out what it takes for JTR to get in the ring. And that is when you question JTR's ability. And just when you think that because I spend most of my time on the outside of the ring, that I won't lace those boots up, climb through the ropes, and get the pin for the 1, 2, 3. That is what motivates me. Absolutely proving you wrong, to show you that JTR, just when you think you got him figured out and he's not going to get in there and compete, I'll get in there and I'll get the W.
Well, you know something, JTR, I think about a great man, Hall of Famer, man but known as Roddy Piper. And he's always said, just when you think you have all the answers, I change the questions. And I'm going to tell you right now, a lot of people say that in professional wrestling, the referee has the best spot in the world because they're that third person. They're as close to the action as you can be. And Hardcore Ross, you're only in that match because your girl was scared to show up.
No.
Hardcore Ross, I'm going to tell you right now, we're not going to question JTR here, because if he felt a reason that he needed to get inside the ropes, that is totally his prerogative. And it's totally something that would be very much his choice. Now, I do have to say this. As you said before, you are a very accomplished individual. But I'm going to ask you, being outside the ring, what would you say, whether it's WDWA, MCW, Voltage, all the promotions you've been to, what would you say is the greatest thing you've learned from being outside the ring as a manager watching matches?
Well, the greatest thing I've probably learned is ring awareness and situational awareness. The thing is you always have to be paying attention. If you watch guys like Bobby the Brain Heenan, he was always on his toes out there, and he was ready. He was 3 steps ahead. So when I'm on the outside of the ring, I've learned from guys everywhere I've been. That's one extremely important thing, is you have to have the situational awareness, and you have to be 3 moves ahead.
And again, JTR, I'm going to say it right now. Everything you're saying, if there's anybody who's just making their debut, learning what it takes to be inside the ring, this interview is a golden opportunity for somebody to learn from one of the best in the business, JTR. And I'm going to turn things just like we were talking about before. You talk about people who learn from the best, as some may say, and I'm not one to rest on my laurels, because I'm always still learning, just like you are. But right now we got the maestro, Jeremy Cart, my broadcast colleague, a man who, like us, has seen a lot both inside and outside of the ring. Maestro, I'm going to turn things over to you because I know you got some questions, not just from being a commentator, but also from being somebody who's still relatively new to the industry. I just want to throw this to you for your thoughts with JTR here on episode 502.
Well, the first question I have for JTR, first off, thank you so much for being on the show. But the question I have, I wanted to refer to an earlier High Spots topic that Skywalker Roberts and I had on our show. And the topic was as follows. It was in regards to TNA's Chris Bay having neck surgery, and a GoFundMe account has been set up for that. Now, as a professional wrestler in your own right, somebody who puts his body and basically his life on the line every time he steps into the squared circle, do you feel that this type of thing should be necessary for a wrestler? And why have they been getting the shaft when it comes to proper health benefits?
So that's a pretty interesting question. What I would say there is, listen, as wrestling fans, we want as much wrestling as possible, right? And we want bigger companies, and we want to have several options of big time companies so that there can be competition. There's costs that are associated with that, obviously. Wrestlers are considered independent contractors, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. It's probably a little bit of both on either direction you're looking at it at. A company can only afford to put so much money out there and still be able to put a product out, right? So there's going to be some costs and some things that they can't cover, right? Unfortunately, being an independent contractor, I mean, it's tough to say. Should you get your own health insurance? Should they insure you? Should there be a little bit of both? If it were me, I would try to probably have a policy where my company would provide health insurance at a 50% cost to the talent, right? You pay 50%, they pay 50%, just like employers around the country, right? A lot of them do that.
Right.
But, as far as footing the bill, I mean, listen, it's a harsh thing to say, and it may sound tough, but, I think I'm an old school from that mindset. We all get in the ring every weekend, every week, every day, however much it is. When you get in there, you know what's possible, you know what could happen. That it's tough to say that, but it's just a fact.
Well, and I greatly appreciate you answering that. I know this is something I think a lot of professional wrestlers do have on their minds. Luke and I have known people, and Emery Jones has known a few wrestlers that have suffered very significant injuries in their time. And I know you've known people who have the same. And I know you being a wrestler yourself, you don't always leave the match clean. You definitely, every bump feels like you're hitting the expressway. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, your body isn't built to, be thrown around like that on top of pretty much just some loose board planks and a little bit of padding, over top some steel. And I think there's a lot of misconception about how a wrestling ring feels. And listen, I don't want to fool anybody. I'm not an actual full-time wrestler. I'll get in there for a match here or there. But at the end of the day, I don't do it on a full-time basis because of the consequences on your body, right? I mean, at the end of the day, I'm 38 years old. I got a job that I support my family with during the week, and I can't get in there and do what the guys do. So, I admire the guys that are willing to put, their body on the line and get in there and do that each and every weekend and chase their dream.
Mm-hmm. And my thing about that is, was there any point where you felt like you could do this at a full-time pace? Like, where did that point come in where it's like, I have these other things in life. I love professional wrestling, but I just know it is not in the best interest of myself and those that I loved if I go in there and do this full-time grind.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really sure at what point. I mean, it's it's something I think I've always had in the back of my mind. And, as like I said, I mean, I have a pretty decent job. I do pretty well in life. And, I just always knew that if you get in there and you do that every single weekend, you're going to risk what you have going. And that's not probably the smartest idea. However, there are still other avenues that you can be a part of it as far as refereeing, managing. Listen, you can even go have a match every once in a while and still enjoy what you're doing.
Is there something in the wrestling industry that you haven't done yet that you would still like to do? You're still young. I know 38 may not sound like it, but then again, Luke over here has been about 43 for the past 15 years. So, I mean...
Oh, come on, Carv. Come on.
So, point being, what are some things that you feel in the wrestling industry you haven't done yet that you really want to do?
Oh, man. I mean, I'm not opposed really to a whole lot. I mean, some of the only stuff I wouldn't probably do is like deathmatch stuff, even refereeing that. I'm not really into that type of thing. But, I mean, otherwise, half the things that I've ended up doing, I never kind of set out to do. It kind of just happened organically and naturally, and I just run with it. So who knows? I mean, I'm not opposed to anything, but as far as, what I want to do, listen, man, I'm just enjoying doing what I'm doing. So I just keep showing up every weekend and see where it goes.
Awesome. Nightmare Jones, Skywalker, I'm going to pass it to whichever one of you gentlemen want to take the reins.
Well, right. I'm gonna jump in here because now you're making fun of the older statesman here of the show. You're making jabs at our guest. And again, I want to preface this, JTR. This is not normal behavior of the hosts of the show. I do want to apologize for my colleague and his.
I not jabbed him once.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and let's bring it back full circle here. Now, you've had the opportunity to be in the ring, a lot of promotions with a lot of very important people. My question, actually somebody brought it up here earlier today, talking about professional wrestling at the mainstream level and talked about how many people view the WWE to be the number one brand when it comes to the world of professional wrestling. My question to you is this. If you were given the opportunity, and again, you are a very accomplished researcher too, I've had that on good authority as well, making sure that your wrestlers are properly prepared for in-ring competition. My question to you is this. If you were given an opportunity to watch any brand, doesn't matter here in the States, internationally, whatever, what particular brand would be your choice if you were going to watch professional wrestling on your downtime?
Right now, I'd have to say it would be WWE. I think we're in an era where kind of Triple H is taking over the reins here full force, and I kind of like what they have going. I think with the Netflix thing coming up here soon, I think we're headed back to a territory that we all love as far as where the product's headed. So I'm excited about the direction of it. It just feels like it has that buzz again for me. And I think maybe that's a cycle for all wrestling fans. But as far as that, it has that buzz feeling like you can turn it on and it's not necessarily predictable for me. You don't know who's going to show up, what's going to happen. You got from time to time, you have, TNA people and NXT. You have an open mind, and the same mind's been running that product for a long time, and we love him and we hate him, but he's gone. So it's different, and it just has a buzz. So there's been a time when I've felt the same way about AEW, but at this point in time, I would say WWE.
Okay, well, I do want to have one, and it's another one that was brought up by my broadcast colleague. I mean, you have an opportunity being in the greater mid-Atlantic area and growing up, you probably, and again, I'm not taking a jab here because you and I are much of the same generation along with Nightmare Jones. You probably, when you first started watching professional wrestling, you probably came in right about the end of the Mid-Atlantic territory. Probably the time where Jim Crockett kind of was more NWA versus Mid-Atlantic. For those that would watch you inside or outside of the ring, if you were to go back to the territory days, what territory would be the area that you think you would be successful the best in? There's a lot of them here, as you kind of talk about with going into this Netflix era and going back into a previous time period. What territory would you be probably best suited for?
Well, it's funny you kind of lead off with the Jim Crockett Promotions thing there. That would probably be it. I like to think of myself, I probably have a little bit of Jim Cornette in me, and I feel like he did really, really well down there. So I think that would probably benefit the way I do things to be down there.
Okay, and I got one more. I'm going to throw it over to Nightmare Jones here for the last couple of questions for the interview part here of tonight's episode. My question is this, and gentlemen, we're going to bounce this around real quick. You talk about Jim Cornette and the Midnight Express. Here's my question. Eaton and Condrey or Eaton and Lane? JTR?
I'm going to say Eaton and Lane.
Okay. Carp?
Lane.
Anytime, Maestro.
Oh, hey, say that one more time. I couldn't hear you on that.
Eaton and Condrey or Eaton and Lane?
Eaton and Lane.
I'm gonna have to go with everybody else. I'm gonna have to go to everybody else. Eaton and Lane, 100%.
I'm not gonna be that guy. I think right now the best team out of the two. I think I'd be more of an Eaton and Condrey guy, and the reason why, simply put, is because of the idea of where you have Bobby Eaton, who is the high flyer, so to speak. I think Condrey and Lane brought two different styles of the tough guy to the tag team, and to me, Condrey was a little more grit than Lane was. But again, both teams were very much accomplished. So,
well, can I just also say that the name Stan? I just want to say in professional wrestling lore, maybe this is just from my perspective looking at it, the name Stan has that masculine, tough, stiff attribute to it. Case in point, Stan Hansen. And Stan Lane kind of epitomized having that big old tough, gritty outlook as well. That's why I like the two parallels of how Bobby Eaton and Stan Lane worked off of each other.
Very true, Maestro. Now, at this point in time, I'm going to go ahead and throw things back over to Nightmare Jones because I know he's got one or two more questions here for the interview portion of tonight's show. So, Nightmare Jones, go ahead and take it away.
Absolutely. So, Money and Power has quite a few people with them. I would have to say the most scariest one would have to be A.K. Bane. A.K. Bane has those crazy eyes when he looks at you. He looks like he's going to eat you. How do you control somebody like that?
Listen, Joe, if I tell you my secret, it's not very smart on my part. Then everybody's going to use it against him. So that'll be for me to know and everyone else to wonder.
Because, I mean, I've seen A.K. Bane put Kid through a table. I've seen him yeet Danica out of the ring to stop her from counting to the three. And, I just don't know how you are able to control something like that. It's almost like he's Kamala and you're Kim Chi.
Let's just say this. That man is willing and able to do whatever it is that I want. That, my friend, is the power in Money and Power.
All right, it's a good answer. It's a very, very good answer. With everything that happened at the with everything happened with turning on the father figures, what do you think is going to happen when Dad finally gets his hands on Mr. Callahan?
First of all, has anybody even seen or heard from that guy? They should probably consider putting him on the side of a milk carton at this point. He's gone. He's not coming back. There is no getting his hands on Mr. Callahan. Daniel Alexander Dabrowski and his daughter Kid are gone from WDWA. No one's seen them. No one's heard from them, and they're not coming back. So that, my friend, is a problem we don't have to worry about because it doesn't exist.
Well, I do believe at some point he is going to make a return, but that's neither here.
People believe in Santa Claus too, Joe.
They do. They
think he's going to show up December 25th every year.
They absolutely
keep wishing.
They absolutely positively do. Now, my last question would be this: you being one of the most hated people in WDWA, do you have to watch your back when it comes to the fans? Because I know that some of the fans can get a little bit crazy. I'm not naming any names, but I know that some fans can get a little bit crazy at times.
Absolutely. For some, I don't know why. For some reason, the people of West Virginia are just absolutely drawn to me, which means they like to get real close and they like to even touch me. And it's fine. I understand. I really do get it. I can rationalize it. They don't get this close to someone this great, this amazing, ever. So when they do, they want to touch me, and I can completely understand that. As far as watching my back, that's what I have AK Bane for. That's what I have Cassius Cash Carter for. That's what I have Mr. Callahan for. I don't need to watch my back because they do.
That's a good answer. That's a very, very, very good answer. All right, so Jeremy and Luke, do you have any more questions?
Well, I'm going to tell you right now, Nightmare Jones, it was kind of ironic that you were the one to answer or ask those last two questions.
It is kind of true.
Because I promised Maestro before we went on the air I wouldn't share this, but I think it'd only be fitting that JTR, you're an accomplished in-ring mind. Whether it's inside the ropes as a referee, as the manager of Money and Power, but I'm a level with you. Nightmare Jones had the audacity to make a comment before we went on the air saying that, one, he was more knowledgeable about professional wrestling than you.
I mean, I am knowledgeable.
And two, that he was the better referee. So, I propose this to you, and I want to go ahead and just kind of throw it out there to you. I want to throw a little bit of a challenge out here tonight. That being the world-famous Wrestle Talk Podcast Game Show Challenge. An opportunity in which the two of you can compete in a competition of wrestling trivia and knowledge to prove once and for all how great the future legacy of JTR will be, and once again prove that Nightmare Jones can't hold a candle to your wrestling acumen. So, JTR, would you be willing to accept Nightmare Jones' challenge this evening?
Listen, Luke, I'm always up for a challenge, especially one I know I'm going to win. Let's do it.
That is true. That is true. Nightmare Jones?
You know that I never turn down a challenge. I'm just upset that, that JTR is going to have to lose. So,
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go ahead and get things started. And Mr. Arstine, as we talked about last episode, we talked about how we've got a lot of new things here at the Wrestle Talk Podcast. So we're going to go ahead right now and officially hit the brand new introduction for the world famous Wrestle Talk Podcast Game Show Challenge. So Arstine, take it away. All right, ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to this week's installment of the world famous Wrestle Talk Podcast Game Show Challenge. Tonight's contest is scheduled for the best 2 out of 3 falls. Our competitors are the one, the only, the manager of Money and Power, JTR, and the man who is the self-proclaimed greatest referee in the history of professional wrestling, the one, the only, Nightmare Jones, Joe Lance. Now, gentlemen,
hang on. Before you get started with this, Nightmare Jones claims to be the greatest professional wrestling referee. Whereas, Luke, you've been a long-time referee. How do you not take offense to that?
I'm playing my respected position as the third man, the man in the stripes here tonight to prove what great referees do. That's adhere to the rules and keep their nose out of people's business. So,
fair enough.
At this point, tonight's contest is scheduled for the best 2 out of 3 falls. In a few moments, I'm going to give you information about 3 famous professional wrestling personalities. When you think you know the answer, go ahead and shout it out. The first 2 out of 3 falls will win tonight's game show challenge. Now, Nightmare Jones, you do have a little bit of an advantage when it comes to knowing referees.
Mm-hmm.
However, I want to make sure that this is on the level. So what I'm going to do right now is this. Tonight's game show challenge category is going to be the face behind the team. I'm going to give you information about 3 professional wrestling managers.
Oh.
When you think you know the answer, shout it out. First 2 out of 3 falls will win tonight's game show challenge. JTR, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Nightmare Jones, are you ready?
I'm ready.
All righty. Here we go with question number 1. This individual was known for many years to be the manager of countless professional wrestling personalities in the WWF and WWF. He was also known for being a professional wrestler on the West Coast, and particularly having picked a fight and subsequent friendship with the late Muhammad Ali. Name this wrestler known for his outlandish jackets and calling people a pencil neck geek.
Classy,
Freddie
flirty, Blassie.
Hold on one second. Maestro, I'm going to have you go back and look at that here for a second. I know you have access to the audio footage. They were both, it was almost in stereo. Hold on one second here. We're going to go ahead and let the Maestro figure this out.
Yep. Hang on. I'm listening to it.
Okay.
This is crazy, but it's been determined that Nightmare Jones did get that one first.
Ooh.
There of the chinny chin chin.
Wow. All right. Well, tell you what, you won 1 fall. It doesn't mean that you've won the contest yet, Jonesy.
Exactly.
So let's go ahead and move on to question number 2. This individual was known as an accomplished wrestler. He was also known for managing a tag team in the WWF, as well as a former Intercontinental Champion. Please name this manager, also known for being the brother of Randy Savage.
Leaping Lanny Poffo.
Do I
That
even need
one's
to
very
review that
clear
one?
cut. Ladies and gentlemen, the genius Lanny Poffo. And just that quick, Nightmare Jones, it's 1 fall apiece. Now,
I did that on purpose.
As we said before, it's the best 2 out of 3 falls. So at this point, gentlemen, are you ready for the 3rd and final fall?
Let's do this.
Let's go.
All righty. Here is your question. This professional wrestling manager had an accomplished in-ring career. He was also known for managing a wide variety of professional wrestlers, including the One-Man Gang, Cactus Jack, the Varsity Club, and the Dungeon of Doom. Name
Kevin
him.
Sullivan.
Kevin Sullivan. Ah,
Ladies and gentlemen, by a score of 2-1, much in the old mentality of the one Ric Flair. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight's winner of the Wrestle Talk Podcast Game Show Challenge is JTR, ladies and gentlemen.
Number one. Everything I do. Number one.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, as we had that little bit of victory music there, Nightmare Jones, do you have anything you need to say to JTR about your overconfidence, your attitude, your comments? Do you have anything to say to JTR now that you've lost?
I appreciate you coming on to the podcast. It has been an absolute pleasure. I always enjoy sharing the ring with you. So yeah, thank you for coming on to the show.
And we still don't get an apology, Jonesy.
I'm not one to apologize.
Well, right now, JTR, again, on behalf of the Wrestle Talk Podcast, I want to say thank you for being on the program tonight. For those that want to find out more about you and where they're going to be able to see you inside the Fame Squared Circle, upcoming events, promotions, social media, anything like that, can you go ahead and share it with our viewers as to where they can catch up with you on social media or at upcoming events?
Absolutely. So you can find me on Facebook at Justin Thomas Rodgers, JTR. Pretty easy. You can find me also at WDWA, World Domination Wrestling Alliance, on Facebook, anywhere on social media. MCW, like they told you, I'm a referee there currently as well. This weekend, got a couple big events coming up. WDWA over at the Beddington Fire Hall in Martinsburg, West Virginia. Go check them out. You also got MCW Pro Wrestling down in Hollywood, Maryland, Saturday night. Joppa, Maryland on Sunday, as well as the MCW ACW Fan Jam, headlined by MJF himself. Kevin Nash will be there, courtesy of JTR Promotions. Mike Chioda will be there. So come on out, check me out there, check all those guys out, come see us, come support us, and we look forward to seeing you all out there.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only Justin Thomas Rodgers, known as JTR. And now I'm going to go ahead and take care of this because I know for a fact that a man of your stature deserves it. It is our esteemed honor and privilege to now officially say that JTR, the manager of Money and Power, referee extraordinaire, manager of the Stars, you are now 100% a card-carrying member of the Wrestle Talk Podcast family. We want to thank you very much for coming on the program, and we look forward to having you on real soon.
Absolutely, guys. Thank you guys for having me. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, JTR joining us here on the program tonight. Jonesy, I got to tell you right now, I thought you would take the high road, but I guess I was wrong.
I'm not. Yeah. You know, I guess you and I are too much alike, Luke Roberts.
Well, that is true. I mean, that is true. But I mean, again, at least I call it right down the middle. I mean, again, after all,
I think
I can still be.
I think that the snitch would think differently about you calling it down the middle.
Well, like I said, I'm not going to get into that. At the request of my legal counsel, I have been advised not to say anything about it. I have not, at this point, I have not been contacted by anybody. I haven't been contacted by Dynamo Pro Management. I haven't been contacted by any form of legal representation. So as far as I'm concerned, it's done. It's over with. We're going to move on. Speaking of which, gentlemen, before we go too much farther along, let's go ahead real quick and thank our great sponsors. And Nightmare Jones, I know that our colleague, the Maestro, has talked about our sponsors. I've talked about our sponsors.
Consideration paid for by the following. Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
But we're going to turn things over to you to talk about our great sponsors here of the Wrestle Talk Podcast right here, right now, as we wrap up episode 502.
Absolutely. We got Retro Zone. We got Pain of Dreams Productions. You got St. Louis Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, Interstate 70 Sports Media, Little Pop ID, designs you can get yourself a Wrestle Talk Podcast tumbler. And of course, you can never forget the FWWC, the World Premier Fantasy Wrestling Group.
And ladies and gentlemen, you heard it right there from Nightmare Jones. I mean, again, without our great sponsors and without you, our loyal listeners, we are not going to be where we are today, episode 502.
Amen.
And gentlemen, I don't know, this might be a little bit of a stretch here, but Arsene, I know you're in the back. I know you're taking care of the audio. If you can find it, can you hit the breaking news sounder? Because I want to go ahead and let the cat out of the bag on something very special. So let's go ahead and have you hit the sounder. And, of course, Nightmare Jones, he's getting ready for it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to tell you right now, I have been working on this for weeks. And I'm going to tell you, this is going to be another huge interview for the Wrestle Talk Podcast. And I can tell you, it is confirmed that on the next episode in 2 weeks of the Wrestle Talk Podcast, it will be our esteemed honor and privilege to have here on the program a man who has been around professional wrestling for the better part of 4+ decades. A man who has held countless championships across the country. A man who has competed in both the NWA, WCW, and the WWF. And a man who recently was awarded the 2024 Independent Wrestler of the Year by the Cauliflower Alley Club in Las Vegas, Nevada in 2 weeks. Right here on the Wrestle Talk Podcast, and I'm getting goosebumps, guys. Ladies and gentlemen, you might know him as Gorgeous, you might know him as the Night Train, but everybody knows him as Gary Jackson, St. Louis professional wrestling icon. Will be on the Wrestle Talk Podcast in 2 weeks' time, right here on the program. It is signed, sealed, and delivered just a few days before the future of SICW is determined. And it is signed, sealed, and delivered. I'm going to tell you right now, a big shout out to all the folks over at SICW and the negotiations and the discussions and all the things that we've had the opportunity to do to make this interview happen for the Wrestle Talk Podcast.
Wow.
I know you are, Maestro, because, I mean, again, you and I have been talking. That's why, and I'm not trying to sound grumpy, but remember I think it was last Tuesday, we were talking right before our meeting, and I told you I had to take a phone call, and I actually had to talk on the Wrestle Talk Podcast line. It was actually officially business, and I want to give a shout out again, SICW, gorgeous, the gorgeous one, Gary, the Night Train Jackson, going to be here in 2 weeks, guys. I'm going to tell you, I had to share that. It has been on the tip of my tongue for 2 hours. I had to make sure I shared that, guys. Again, episode 502, great episode. Any final thoughts before we wrap up tonight's episode? Maestro, you and I have been around here for 2+ hours. What are your thoughts here tonight, buddy?
That was a fantastic episode, gentlemen. Nightmare Jones, it is so good to have you on. And I just want to say God bless each and every one of you. And the fact we got Gary freaking Jackson, the fact you, Luke, got Gary freaking Jackson on this, that is fantastic. And
Awesome.
one more thing before we wrap up, before we go, I just want to make it clear to everybody. It doesn't matter what political affiliation you are, what religion you are, what anything. Do not split your families and your friendships and your relationships because of these different ideologies. I just want to make that specifically clear. I've seen it too close to heart. So thank you all. Episode 502 was fantastic. I love you all so much. And I look forward to the next one.
Well, I got to tell you right now, I agree with you 100% there, Maestro. Nightmare Jones, I know you've been around all night long, catching out the Wrestle Talk Podcast, episode 502. And I got to tell you, I think this is your first official. I mean, I know you were in and out for 500. You were in and out in 501. But I think this is your first official show back in the announcing chair. How are you feeling after your first full show back?
Well, there was no way that we were going to be able to have JTR as somebody as esteemed as JTR on the show and not have me come onto the show as well. It's been too long. I am glad to be back. Hopefully it'll be on a regular basis, and I enjoy doing this show with you all. It's been a great show.
I got to tell you right now, Jonesy, it feels. I mean, again, for better part of 2 years, Maestro and I were alongside each other for commentary, and it felt great. And I got to tell you right now, speaking for both of us, having you back here in one of the co-pilot chairs, being a part of the Wrestle Talk Podcast, I mean, it feels like we've come full circle again, Jonesy. And again, it's always an honor and a privilege to have you here, have everybody here watching the Wrestle Talk Podcast. Make it a point to share us on social media. Maestro, before we head out, can you go ahead? There is one little piece of business that I know you take care of each and every time you're on the program. So if you'd be so kind, go ahead, and I think it would be fitting for you to share that here this evening.
Absolutely. I wanted to make sure you fine gentlemen got your goodbyes in first, because as always, at the end of every show I do, whatever the show may be, I always put up the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. And for that, we dial 988. The line is open 24/7, 365, 366 on leap years such as in this year. I want you all to understand you're never alone in this world. There's always somebody out there who loves you, who cares about you, who will listen to you. We are all struggling in some way, shape, or form, in some different, either financially, physically, mentally, emotionally, even spiritually. And it doesn't mean that these have to be issues and trials and tribulations that have to be traveled alone. You are just a phone call or a text message away from getting that one call, that one voice that could be there for you. And you could be the listening ears and watchful eyes out there for somebody else who is in need as well. So thank you all so much, and understand you are never alone.
I got to tell you, Maestro, couldn't have been said any better by anybody else. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes episode 502 of the Wrestle Talk Podcast. And again, as you saw right there at the end, make sure to give us those stars, because the more stars you give us, the more we can get supported. Also, share us out to your friends, family, brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, cousins. Make it a point, because we said before, 2 weeks from tonight, right here on the Wrestle Talk Podcast, the Night Train, Gary Jackson's going to join us. Ladies and gentlemen, for myself, the Maestro, Jeremy Karp, and Nightmare Jones, Joe Lance, this is Luke Roberts saying we want to wish each and every one of you a great evening, and we look forward to seeing you right back here on the Wrestle Talk Podcast in 2 weeks' time. Take care, everybody.